Hello and a very warm welcome to the Sparkling Autos YouTube channel. Before we delve into the products themselves, let's take a quick look at the car I'm going to be testing them on today. So having just returned from a 1,000 mile family trip across 4 countries and having not been washed for at least 2 weeks before that, you can clearly see that my workhorse of a Ford Mondeo is very much in need of a good clean. Now at this time of year, traffic film isn't as much of an issue, particularly as we were extremely fortunate to have mostly dry weather on our travels. But there is a lot of road dust, coupled with considerable number of flies, bugs and any other airborne objects which happen to be in front of me on the motorway. On top of the bugs, the car also had to endure return ferry crossings between islands via the Irish Sea, and whilst I sincerely hope the vehicle decks were properly sealed, salt water churned up in the ship's wake can still make its way everywhere, so as is the case with the salted winter roads, it's important to remove any of this at the earliest opportunity. And now you've seen what we'll be dealing with in terms of cleaning the car, let's take a look at today's products. So if you were lucky enough or unlucky enough to see my last video, and I'll put a link above and in the description if you're interested, you'll know that I was less than blown away by the Halfords basic wash and wax car shampoo. Well, a lot of you will be aware by now that Halfords have introduced a brand new range of products to their stores, Halfords Advanced, aimed at car enthusiasts who don't just want to keep their car clean, but want to get the most from the car care experience and take the next step into proper detailing products. Well, I've picked up a number of these products myself and decided to give them my quick test Tuesday treatment to see if they can hold their own against the products that live on my shelves. And the first one I'm going to look at then is the Halfords Advanced High Performance Snowfoam, which I'm going to apply using the standard manufacturer supplied foam lance for my Ava P80 pressure washer, and I'll explain why a little later, but there is a good reason for this. For now though, let's take a look at the instructions on the Snowfoam. Now being a mainstream high street brand, Halfords, as you would expect, have made every attempt to cover all bases with their labelling in terms of cautions and safety warnings, which is fantastic, but it's not what I'm interested in for the purposes of this video, so I'm going to focus on the directions for use. So we have the normal, work in the shade, avoid direct sunlight, all good advice, and then we have the dilution which states to use 100ml of product to 500ml of water in your lance, allow to dwell for up to 5 minutes and remove with a pressure washer. It also states that you should rinse the vehicle before use. Well, I won't be doing that, as I find that unless the vehicle is heavily soiled, this step is unnecessary and can even be counterproductive, as you could be watering down the products. But if you prefer to do it, then go for it. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do, that's just what I like to do. As you can see then, I've added 500ml of warm water, using warm because it helps the products mix together, and then I'm going to add 100ml of the snow foam as directed. Now, the first thing I noticed with this foam was the lack of colour, which is unusual, but other than being visually surprising, I don't think it should really make any difference. Time to put the top in the foam lance, give it a bit of a swish round, and we're ready to apply it. First impressions then, and I do have to admit that I was pleasantly surprised with the foam's thickness. It's no Waterbrite Direct Magic Foam, but it's certainly a visibly thick foam, and that's when it's being applied with a standard manufacturer supplied foam lance on the middle setting. And that's why I wanted to use this lance. A 40, 50 or 60 pound lance can make almost any snow foam look good on camera, but I wanted to see what this would be like using the basic equipment that the majority of people just getting into home car care would have access to. So now that it's on the car, let's see what it looks like after being allowed to dwell for a few minutes. So after the first couple of minutes, the consistency doesn't look too bad. It's a fairly wet foam, it's not too thick and separating, and it's not too thin and falling off the car. You can also see from the background it's a fairly sunny but windy day, not ideal for applying a snow foam, I might add. Fast forward then to the 5-minute mark, and it does look as though that consistency is holding up. The foam is maintaining those wet properties, and there doesn't seem to be too much degree of separation, and that's despite the fact that it is incredibly warm and very blustery day that I'm applying it in. Now that's not to say that this is in any way the most impressive foam I've ever used, and it's certainly not what some people like to call a game changer, but by the same token, it's far from being the worst. But of course all of these are just first impressions. None of this means anything if the product doesn't hold up to its claims of being able to remove traffic, film and dirt. And as we approach the 6-minute dwell mark, you will start to see around the rear of the car where it was first applied there is some degree of separation starting to happen. So it's time to get it rinsed off and find out if it really is any good. Starting the rinse process then, and it certainly appears to rinse away without any issues. But here comes the first test of the product's cleaning power, the alloy wheels, and although it isn't marketed as a strong wheel cleaner, I think it's fair to expect any pre-wash product that claims to be able to remove traffic film to at least have some impact on the wheels, and unfortunately this hasn't done much to impress me at this stage. I do like how easily it rinses off though, there's no early signs of any residue being left behind. And for those of you wondering why I'm rinsing from the bottom to the top, well, this is a personal preference, but for pre-wash products I always find this way more efficient, unlike when rinsing the car top to bottom after a contact wash, which we will be coming to shortly. Another positive point worth noting at this stage is that this Snowfoam does certainly appear to be gentle, or safe as manufacturers like to say, on the vehicle protection. Whether you've applied a wax, sprayable sealant, or even have a ceramic coating on your car, it's reassuring to know that the cleaning products you're using aren't going to cause any premature degradation to that protection, and the water behaviour is always a clear indication of that. Well, that's the pre-wash rinsing stage pretty much complete, so I'll skip through the rest of it and we can take a closer look at how the Snowfoam has performed. Taking our first look at the freshly rinsed car, and it certainly looks much better, but as the bodywork is still wet and water being reflective, this can sometimes give a false impression that the product has performed really well. So I shall continue to look around as the paintwork dries, being careful not to allow it to dry too much in this heat as I want to keep the panels cool for the contact wash. And whilst the early drying signs don't look overly promising, one area which did initially impress me here was the lack of bugs on the front of the car. Bar the most stubborn splatter marks, they seem to have been removed with ease, although to what extent the Snowfoam should be credited over the good levels of protection on the front of the car we'll probably never know, but the fact remains that where there were bugs, now there are none. So the positives here are that it does appear to be LSP safe and has certainly aided in the bug removal, however the cleaning part is questionable based on the rinsing of the wheels and indeed looking at the drying sections on the lower half of the car. And without having any of my better half's makeup pads close by, I'll have to resort to a finger swipe to check for remaining dirt, and just a quick swipe of a tiny 2-inch section demonstrates that perhaps cleaning power isn't this product's greatest strength. And that just about covers the Snowfoam's initial test. We'll come back to it a little later, but for now, let's see if the shampoo can make any more of an impression. On now then to the Halfords Advanced High Performance Shampoo, which is a pH neutral shampoo and as such claims to be wax and sealant safe. So once again the usual rules apply, work in the shade, avoid direct sunlight and so on, and as for dilution rates it says to use between 10 and 20ml with 10 litres of water. Well, as I'm using a 20 litre bucket I'm going to double that, which is 20 to 40ml, so I'm going to go right down the middle and use 30ml of the shampoo. As you can see here, it does foam up rather nicely in the bucket, although you may also notice here that it doesn't sud massively on first contact with the car. However, that's possibly down to me not agitating the bucket with the extra large Garage Therapy wash pad in there, meaning the pad hadn't absorbed as much of the soapy solution as I had intended, but this will change as the wash goes on. In terms of slickness though, well that's something I was able to confirm immediately. Allow me to demonstrate. And that is one thing that this shampoo, certainly in my experience, does not lack: slickness. Even a wash pad as large as this one glides over the panels with ease, and you can see those suds starting to increase now as the pad becomes more and more loaded up. And in other news, now that the side of the car is pretty much dried off, you can perhaps see why I wasn't blown away by the performance of the Snowfoam, but hopefully the shampoo's performance can restore some confidence in this new range from the UK's largest automotive retailer. I can say now in all honesty that the further I got round the car, the more I appreciated what a pleasant shampoo this was to use. Comparing it with the last Halfords offering I used on the channel, the difference really is night and day. And whilst using 30ml in the large bucket hasn't exactly produced an avalanche of suds, there's certainly more than enough to provide that necessary visual indicator that lets you see where you've already passed over with your wash mitt. But more importantly with this product from my point of view is that slickness. A shampoo's primary purpose is to provide lubrication for your chosen wash mitt, allowing it to pass safely over the paintwork to collect all the dust and dirt that shouldn't be there. And with slickness being arguably the best way for a shampoo to demonstrate its ability to lubricate, this product certainly ticks that particular box. Another aspect of a car shampoo that's a major selling point, certainly for a lot of users, is scent. Now I'm famously poor at identifying scents, but I'm actually picking up a pleasant minty aroma from this one. That said, I'm terrible at this game and it could be lavender for all I know. Either way, it certainly isn't unpleasant. But now all I need to see is just how easily it's going to rinse off the car. So what is the Halfords Advanced High Performance Shampoo like to rinse away? Well, the actual removal of the product posed no issues whatsoever, and you can clearly see it rinses off the bodywork on the first pass with no hesitation. My only slight reservation on the bonnet was what appeared to be some impact on the previously applied sealant, but we'll see what it's like on the rest of the car before jumping to any conclusion. And ignore the fast food cups in the centre console, the interior was tackled off camera after I washed the outside. Honest, it really was. Onto the roof then, where unlike the bonnet, the protection showed no signs whatsoever of degrading. And this is on the most horizontal panel on the car, so if the water sheets off here, then the shampoo would appear to be sealant safe. That being said, all contact washes will inevitably wear down waxes and sealants, as it's the contact itself which is degrading them. The shampoo is merely a catalyst which can determine the rate at which that happens. So there we have it, the shampoo rinsed away easily, and other than showing some signs of slowing on the bonnet, it appears to be safe to use in terms of paintwork protection. Now I just have to thoroughly rinse the rest of it off and use my AutoBrake Direct Twisted Loop Ultimate Drying Tool to remove the surface water, which I have to do at double speed in this sunshine to avoid any water spotting. And when that's finished, there's only one question that remains. So what can I actually say about these two products? Well, first of all, if you look at the car itself, it's worth noting that I didn't use any finishing products or basically any other products on the exterior. I did clean the wheels and dress the tyres, but that's completely separate from this. But the bodywork itself was literally a matter of using the Snowfoam as a pre-wash and the shampoo to clean the car and then dry it off. And as for the Snowfoam itself, well, whilst it doesn't have the dwelling power or thickness of foam of something like AutoBrake's Magic Foam, and it certainly doesn't have the cleaning power of pretty much any pre-wash product I've used, it wasn't really a bad product as such. I wouldn't rush out and buy it again, but I don't think it's bin worthy. It might work quite well as a blanketing product over another pre-wash. The problem is I have so many products that I know are much better. I'm more than likely going to reach for those first. Now the shampoo on the other hand, I was actually surprisingly quite impressed with. It ticked all the boxes that you really need a shampoo to tick. The only thing I would prefer is more suds, but of course you could always add more product to the bucket. It was definitely slick enough, and the smell was more than pleasant enough that I would have no hesitation whatsoever in using it again. And that is really all I have to say about that. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe to the channel. Other than that, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. I'll hopefully see you in the next one, and take care.